Jeff Lee here, Program Manager of TMASF Connects. Today, I am joined by Deb Clearwaters, Director of Development, and Cecilia Vega-Mayer, Director of Community Programs at the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
SF Bike is a nonprofit focusing on bicycle education and advocacy to create safer streets and more livable communities. Deb, Cecilia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and maybe expand on the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition?
I'm Cecilia. I grew up in Seattle and moved to California in 2021. And I started working at the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition in 2022. I started as the adult education manager, the adult bicycle education manager, and now I'm the director of community programs. And I came to this work because I always relied on biking, walking, and public transit in every place I've lived. I lived in Seattle, Minneapolis. I've lived in a couple different locations in Indonesia for 6 months to a year at a time. And public transit and active transportation has always been my main way of getting around. And that's my favorite way to get to know a city. So when I moved to California, I was living in Monterey and I was working on a graduate degree in environmental policy. And I saw a job opening at the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. And the work that the coalition was doing was just perfectly aligned with what I was interested in doing with my graduate degree and with all of my experiences living in the United States and abroad. And since being at this organization, I have felt that my interest in being here has just continued to increase because of all the work that we're doing to make San Francisco a more bikeable, more walkable place, and where we're just working to make all the streets of San Francisco safer for everyone who wants to use them.
Yeah, and I'll go next. Hi, I'm Deb. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. in the suburbs there, and learned to ride a bike growing up in kind of quieter streets. Bikes were really freedom for us growing up, and became an essential tool for me when I went off to college at the University of Delaware. And then when I lived abroad in Tokyo and in Cambridge, England, both places I did not own a car and used a bike for kind of first and last mile solutions. And about 20 years ago, I dusted off my college mountain bike to start commuting from, at that time I was living in Twin Peaks, to my job at the Asian Art Museum. And I soon discovered SF Bike. I did some group rides and it really transformed my life. I was totally hooked on biking as, just a very pleasurable activity, both in terms of how I got around the city. It was very reliable. I knew how long it was going to take me to get anywhere I needed to go in San Francisco, and developed some really close friendships, people that I got to know on bike rides. About 2 years ago, I joined the coalition in summer of 2024. I was looking for what's the next chapter of my career? And I'd been a member and volunteer at the Bicycle Coalition for a long time. And after 26 years in museum education, I moved into development, my role as the main fundraiser for San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. And I'm loving having to learn a lot and really enjoying a very cool environment and very cool people to work with.
And for both of you, what kind of differences have you noticed since you began working at SF Bike?
That's a great question. Well, like I said, I've been at the organization for almost 4 years now, and we've seen a lot of really big changes to our work and to also the landscape of active transportation in San Francisco. And specifically within our organization, we have expanded our programming in a lot of ways. We work with a lot more. We work with a ton of schools through our Safe Routes to School program. We're working with families more regularly. We're also incorporating scooters into our work. We want people that ride scooters in the city to also feel really safe and like the bicycle infrastructure is for them, because legally it is. And we want to make sure that people riding scooters feel comfortable with the rules of the road. They feel comfortable sharing bike lanes with bicyclists. And we've also worked even more closely with our partners that support pedestrians and people walking in San Francisco.
That's a really exciting shift to see as, businesses are really leaning into their active transportation planning and asking us to support them, for example, with their TDM bike programming, their transportation demand management work. So that's a kind of change that I've observed in the 2 years that I've been at the organization as well.
And we're definitely going to follow up on those points. But I first want to ask, how big is the staff over at SF Bike?
There are currently 17 full-time and one part-time staff person, plus a handful of contracted bike educators who are licensed to teach by the League of American Bicyclists. And we have, I think, 5 core teams. They're advocacy, membership and development, youth and family programs, our community bike education team, and our marketing and communications team.
Okay. And how is the organization funded?
So about half of our budget comes from contractual work where we provide free community bike education programs. And we're also the primary contractor for the city's Safe Routes to School program. And I believe federal money goes into that program, but not directly to us. It comes via different city departments that hire us to do this work. The other half of our annual budget is, and this is kind of in order of the, kind of percentages, but we raise money from individuals. So we have some major donors and individuals who support our work every year with an annual gift. We also do a lot of work writing grants with different foundations and, grant making agencies. And then we also have business sponsorships. So businesses are sponsoring events like Bike to Wherever Day, which is coming up on May 14th, as well as our annual Winterfest party. And then membership dues. We have about somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 members who pay us dues every year to support our work.
On that note, so becoming a San Francisco Bicycle Coalition member, why should someone join and what are the benefits of being a member?
Yeah, I mean, members are really there to support our core work in the city to make it safer to bike. So members typically care about that, and that's why they want to support the coalition. Membership dues support our presence at City Hall meetings that often go on for hours, ensuring that their voice is going to be represented in those key policy decisions at like committee meetings with the San Francisco the transit agency and the city agencies that are responsible for maintaining our streets and also updating streets to have bike infrastructure and more pedestrian safety infrastructure. And members also enjoy some really nice perks, like we have a few member-only events every year. They can borrow for free our bike boxes or our trailers. Like, let's say they want to travel with their bike, or they're doing some hauling by bike, and they don't have space to store something like that at their tiny apartment in San Francisco, so they can borrow our equipment. And then dozens of local businesses honor a discount for our members as well.
Great. Thank you both. Next time, we'll be continuing the conversation with more on SF Bike.